Hello!
Hello, Anna.
So what is the general approach to the teaching on the yoga weekends?
Well, primarily experiential rather than educational or informational.
So why is that?
Well, yoga is practice, of course, you know, and the core of yoga is experience.
Rather than being told.
Rather than being told, in fact, yeah. So the whole game really is about the participants, just encountering certain experiences that enhance life greatly. You can't be told the content of these experiences. You have the experience, and that's the part that does the work. But it's the nature of those experiences that we can't tell somebody else the content of the experience. It only becomes theirs, and it only becomes effective in a participant's life if they have the experience. So the ground is experiential. Now, it seems to me that we really need to emphasise that in modern yoga. There is quite a tendency, I think, in 21st century spirituality, can I say, to proceed from the story, from the narrative or the theory, outwards towards the experience, and it seems to me that that's the wrong way around. We should proceed from the experience, and then we can make something of it. Because really, the experience and the interpretation of the experience are two separate things. So if you're working towards your own yoga experience from somebody else's interpretation of their experience, it's not going to work. If you think about it, it's not going to work. We're immediately in a game of Chinese whispers, and each step in that process produces an informational loss, you might say, or a distortion.
Yeah.
It's Chinese whispers. So the job of a teacher therefore is not to kind of impart some great narrative and then school the students in how to live inside the narrative and how to be very fluent with the terminology of the narrative. And there's a lot of that going down, it seems to me, and not much clarity about the distinction between that approach and the approach which points us directly towards the experience. If any of this is cogent that I'm saying now, the actual ground of yoga practice is felt, lived experience. Not stories, not Sanskrit, not Hinduism, not Buddhism, not chakras, but felt, lived experience. And it strikes me that anybody who's not engaging with that as a yoga practitioner or a yoga teacher is really on a hide into nothing.
So that's what we're hoping to.
So the ground is felt lived experience on these weekends. Now, it's my conviction, based on experience, based on my own experience, that the yoga experience is actually something that's intrinsic to being human. It's not the result of a cultivation, a cultural. It's not a cultural artifact. It's an intrinsic part of being human. In fact, it's an intrinsic part of consciousness. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's consciousness itself. So there's a sense in which one can never lose or be disconnected at some level, at least, from one's intrinsic yoga. It's always there. It always was there. It always will be there, and it's there everywhere also. So that's the conviction that I'm working from. I mean, I'm saying this so that people know where I'm coming from. That is what I'm saying. Your felt lived experience is the place where your beatitude is where it lurks.
Yeah.
I suppose the reality of most people's lives, of course, is that they feel disconnected from their yoga, their beatitude. They feel even though they're not actually disconnected, they feel disconnected, and it's a slight out of focus, really, all that. Now, if this analysis or this picture is right, it means that the job of a teacher isn't to really be educating anybody in the sense of telling them some stuff.
Yeah.
How many petals are there on the third chakra, and what are the mantras inscribed on the petals? All of this stuff, as far as I'm concerned, it's of peripheral interest. What I'm interested in is felt, lived experience, and really pointing people towards their felt, lived experience, so that they'll see the glory that's in there, and the sublimity, and the terror.
Yeah.
And the magnificence of that. So that's the agenda, and the general approach is let's take a look at what's going on as our lives unfold towards death.
Yeah.
So the other point I need to make about that is if felt lived experience is the place where we need to be checking this out, where we need to be undertaking our investigations and our experiments and our inquiries. If that is the case, all lived experience is full of the possibility of beatitude. And for that reason, on the weekends we'll do all kinds of stuff. We do meditate. We meditate a fair bit. We do some hatha yoga, but we talk and discuss and chat and laugh and joke and eat food together and have a stroll together and
play with the cat
and so on. And the whole business of living is.
It's all part of it.
It's all grist to the mill.
Yeah.
So that's the general approach.
So the first weekend in April, we've called it the When Practice is Mind-Blowing title I particularly like. So what's going to happen on that one?
Good question. Well, sometimes practice is mind-blowing, and really good juicy yoga practice is mind-blowing. That's what it's for. It's meant to blow your mind. You know, and it strikes me that what occurs when those mind-blowing moments come about, what occurs is just that kind of disconnection that's just dropped out of the picture, that slight out of focus. That we get, which is a kind of forgetting, I suppose. That it just drops out of the picture, and suddenly there you are. You're face to face with
everything.
With everything, yeah. With the astonishing fact of finding oneself alive, awake, embodied on this rock that's spinning around a star. You know, and it's when you get that encounter, well, it's mind blowing, and it's mind blowing, yeah. And that's where that's when our inquiries are starting to bear fruit, I suppose you might say. Even though, of course, we're seeking no fruit, we are just inquiring. We're trying to find out. You know, this is our approach. Just to underscore this, it's about finding out. It's not about cultivating a particular way of being, which can only ever be a cultural artefact and a second-hand notion of how a human being ought to be that somebody's passed on or managed to bring into some position of influence within the world of discourse. So, yeah.
And the one in July. Yeah. Called The Story of Stories.
Yeah.
What about that one?
What about that one? Okay. Okay. Well, what I just wanted to say about when practice is mind-blowing, what I wanted to point out there is that we encounter the mind-blowing and astonishing nature of our own existences if we are kind of open and vulnerable and sensitive to just what's actually happening, whatever that might be, whether you're eating your dinner or sitting on your meditation cushion. That's where that is, and all of that flows out of the approach of taking yoga practice as inquiry, investigation, experiment, rather than taking it as cultivation, internalising narratives and so on. And what that approach is utilising is our very primordial nature as curious monkeys. You know, I don't want to get too socio-biological about this, but you know, we're curious monkeys.
Yeah.
And our tremendous curiosity has brought us to where we are. Whatever you think of that, for good or ill, we are curious monkeys. And the experimental approach to yoga honours that fact about us. It honours actually where we are now and starts from there. Mm. The other thing about us, the other primordial thing about our simian nature is as well as being curious monkeys, we're also storytelling monkeys.
We do love our stories.
Human beings have been entertaining and informing themselves and just by storytelling since the dawn of human history. And it's a great thing about us, you know. It produces the world of narratives, of novels, of plays, and in the modern world of films and so on. It's also it's fulfilled a function. I don't think we'd have the story-taking reflex operative within us if it didn't have some use. Mm. It wouldn't have survived the rigours of evolution if it didn't have some use. And the use, the primary use that stories have been put to is to give communities big stories, which they can collectively believe, which becomes a shared belief system for a community, which in turn enables that community to cohere, which in turn enables it to organise its efforts to survive materially through community solidarity. Yeah, and you can see how that works. I mean, this is the function of big religions, you know, and mythic systems that societies have, which tell you what the significance of your life is, where you came from, where you're going, what happens when you die, what your duty is, how you're supposed to treat your fellows, what kind of things exist, that whole kind of caboodle. And it's great that we can do that. This is the essence of our being. It's our creativity. On the downside, every stick has two ends. So on the downside, there's a tendency for human beings to live inside their stories.
Yeah.
They become a kind of a large but nevertheless closed habitat for the soul, if you like. Mm. You know, and living inside a story is not dancing under the open sky.
No.
Dancing under the open sky is the raw joy of human existence. Living in a story is the breeding ground of fanaticism. And
it's being in a bubble.
It's being in a bubble, yeah. So what I want to do on this weekend is to actually look at the story of stories, really to talk about what I've just been talking about there, and to get some sort of purchase on that through direct experience. And I'm hoping, and in fact I'm pretty sure that together we can sit on our meditation cushions and notice this thing about ourselves and see our story making faculty kicking in and working, and how it works.
Yeah.
Now, none of this is to kind of want to get people to abandon their imaginations. On the contrary, you know, or to abandon joy in narratives and our ability and our linguistic abilities. You know, Blarney is just one of the great goods of life, and I'm not against it. I'm just wanting to point out really just how stories work.
Oh,
because that is a liberating knowledge, you know, and what actually happens when you understand how stories work. It's not that you abandon this fantastic faculty. You actually become more fluent with it, because less likely to become fanatically attached to a particular story.
You're not being motivated by that story anymore once you can see what it is.
Yeah. So it produces a kind of creative fluidity with language, with narrative. It's a kind of a playful, you could say. It becomes, through that meditative insight into one's own story-making faculty, it becomes a wonderfully fluid creativity that flows out of meditative insight and meditative silence.
So in October we're doing another weekend, and we've called it Coming Home.
Yeah, I like the phrase coming home. What I mean by that, and what I'm hoping to play with on this final weekend is of 2013, not the final one ever. Final weekend of 2013. Planning to stick around a bit longer than that.
Hopefully.
Bit of luck in the following wind. But what I'm interested in here is settling down into this world, but having taken an unflinching look at it. It's not settling down into a world that one would like. It's not settling down into a fantasised world. It's settling down into the world that you find when you're open and clear and vulnerable towards it, sensitive towards it. And of course, it's a world of great glory, intense beauty, sublimity, mind-boggling diversity, astonishing scale, and so on. All these things, it's pretty gobsmackingly wonderful. But at the same time, you know, our species is violent, extremely violent. And so I'm also wanting to bring that into the picture, you know, really to just to look very, very, very with a great deal of clarity and see the whole caboodle, the violence, the horror, the cruelty, the altruism, the creativity, the immense power to inquire and discover, the crazy but absolutely wonderful curiosity, and really to encounter the entire caboodle.
Yeah.
You know, and then coming home is settling down into that. Now, and being at home in this world, in its sublimity and terror, and in its beauty and glory, being at home in this world. Because basically this is
this is it.
This is it. So settle down into it, or struggle forever and miss the show.
Yeah.
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 So I'm saying all that, and I don't want it to sound like any kind of fatalism. I'm saying settle down into it, and then just, you know, shrug your shoulders when you hear about the latest massacre in some failed state, so-called. You know, it's not that. You know, because actually this settling down and being at home in what after all is home, unleashes a very, very great degree of creativity, and creativity out of which we can produce beauty. Out of which we can produce compassionate action. Out of which we can produce clear visions for the human future and human flourishing.
So for people who haven't been here before, maybe just to describe what it's like to come and spend a weekend here.
Well, I know what it's like for me, and I know that people who do come here, quite a few of them really, really like it and come back really ad infinitum, it seems, because they like it. They get something from it. I know what I've just said sounds perhaps a bit fierce and a bit daunting, but I would say that the approach, given that it's an approach of becoming intimate with one's immediate felt lived experience, it follows from that it's a very relaxed approach. It's a very non-regimented approach. We're experimenting, we're finding out, we're not imposing structures and effects and on ourselves, and we're not manipulating our psychophysical complex in order to produce certain effects which we then interpret in a way that's already given. We're not playing that game. So just given that experimental nature of what goes on when we have these weekends, it does immediately mean, and it logically follows, that everything is chilled out, it's relaxed.
Informal.
It's informal, yeah. It's informal. It's friendly.
Lots of nice food.
Yeah, and celebratory.
It does feel a bit like a party sometimes, doesn't it? The weekends.
It feels also there's a celebratory feel to it, And, I know I can come across as kind of fairly severe, I think, and.
I don't know. I don't think you do.
So, but just to say, yeah. It's relaxed, it's chilled out.
Yeah, there's plenty of times. I mean, sometimes in the evening we'll kind of watch a film together, or chat, or play with the cat, or we have walks every day, don't we? Usually.
Yeah. I mean, I think real asceticism is completely misplaced. It's and really it's any kind of ascetic goings on and paramilitary regimentation is missing the point. That it's an inquiry and an investigation, and not a cultivation or an imposition.
And also here, the Parkdale Yoga Centre is actually just our house. It's a large Victorian house, isn't it? So it's not. You're not going to be surrounded by mirrors and chrome and.
Well, the yoga room it's cosy. It's small. We have room for 10 people.
Yeah.
So the groups remain small, and it's just the whole proceedings are just kind of rather deliciously mellow. I find it.
Yeah. Yeah, we just thought we'd put that in because, it's this, people, you have no idea what to expect or what this place is. When we say to people, it's the Parkdale Yoga Centre, they often expect some big sort of like purpose-built kind of
we don't have any
swanky yoga centre, but it's actually just our house. Really,
there are no ropes attached to the wall, and there's no obligatory wearing of white.
No. None of that here, no.
And
comfortable beds as well.
And it's really you and I have
we've created it to be conducive to what we want it to be.
We've put our best creativity into making an environment that's conducive to people finding out what's going on with them, pretty well how gobsmacking that is, once you kind of encounter it, and that's it. Really, that's what we're about.
Well, thank you very much. And see you later.